The learning crisis in Nigeria is deep and getting worse. The quality of learning and learning resources for multitudes of Nigerian children is critically low. While millions of households struggle with the economic costs of keeping children in school, particularly since the coronavirus pandemic, understanding ways to quickly improve Nigeria's education system is crucial. This is the work that the Research on Improving Systems of Education, RISE project, does. RISE is currently working in several developing countries around the world to determine ways of overcoming the learning crisis to achieve quality education. In Nigeria, RISE aims to understand how demand-side issues such as community engagement, parental aspirations, and student motivation, as well as local politics, affect education outcomes on a community level. The Nigeria arm of RISE is a collaboration between the African School of Economics and the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa. An important aspect of the Nigeria project is the political economy component, where RISE researchers study how politics interacts with education demand to shape education policy. The idea is to, in novel experiments, convene local stakeholders and policymakers to the same conversation table so that they may mutually commit to improving governance and education outcomes. The thinking is that if these models of engagement will work anywhere, it would be in African societies such as Nigerian ones, which carry these methods of civil interaction in their historical DNA. One of the 3 states where this experiment was conducted is Jigawa. Here, 3 local government areas were chosen for the study, and another 3 were used as the control. The 3 components of this exercise were to 1. Gather evidence-based information around it through research. 2. Hold constructive deliberations between policymakers and local stakeholders with a view to reaching common ground regarding steps to improve education. And 3. The signing of a social contract that would be emblematic of the government's commitments to achieving the common goals. The research spared no effort to get to the places with the most profound education needs. Some of these places were very rural areas with only the most basic amenities. We made our way round the communities and engaged with the local schools. We interacted with the locals to understand how factors like their livelihoods could affect their investment in the education of their children. Such as the way sometimes the desperate economic needs of their households could keep these children out of school. At the locations of the study, the research evaluated the priorities of identified stakeholders around designated areas of concern. The most influential stakeholders were identified through a power mapping process, and questionnaires were administered to them to identify their priorities, using selected schools as focal points. In order to ensure that we understood the specific problems of each different location, stakeholders were carefully selected to form a broad and diverse respondent group. Everywhere we went, the locals were very receptive of our endeavor. and very eager to show us themselves the problems of their local schools. It pleased us immensely to discover a deep-seated commitment everywhere we went towards advancing local education goals. Using set-out criteria as guidelines, we assessed and recorded the physical conditions of the schools. We also communicated directly and through questionnaires with parents and teachers to gain insights for the research. We spoke with the head teachers at these schools to understand the problems they were facing in depth.
Our schools need renovation.
The school have flooding.
We have inadequate teachers.
We have so many classes that has problems. That is, they're leaking. There's no doors, no windows, and other things.
Where did the girls go to toilets?
Just the interbush.
The girls go to
Yes, they are interbush. We don't have
toilets?
No toilet. We have only 3 toilets, and only is for teachers.
During wet and dry seasons, the cattle rearers come to the school and disturb the schools.
There is no security.
The goal of the Rise Political Economy of Education Reform Project in Jigawa and Nigeria is not merely to keep these children in the classrooms. Much as Rise Nigeria investigates the economic and other circumstances that facilitate the bewildering statistics around out-of-school children in the country, such as, for instance, the socio-cultural drivers of the far lower enrollment numbers for females in parts of the country. The ultimate goal is to push towards all Nigerian children having access to the highest standards of formal education. Finally, the qualifications of the teachers were reviewed and the students were assessed with standardized tests. The data gathered around the schools would now inform summit discussions. The Jigawa summits were held in Hadijia, Gwaram, and Babura.
We are here to discuss the outcome of our research that was conducted in Jigawa State at the local government level.
These summits convened selected local education stakeholders, such as teachers and community leaders, to present their most pressing education issues, underpinned by the research, to the government representative, and to deliberate with them over these.
There is need for more trainings of teachers on the issues around education. Take all the responsibilities of this building to handle it to the LEA. The local education authority is supposed to be overseer of the building in schools.
In Hadija, we need more classes. It's not possible for a teacher to effectively teach more than 40 pupils in a class.
Government should look at the ways, all possible ways of maybe creating or building a fresh new school.
We are demanding the government to at least get a census of all the schools in this state so that it will help to have a base.
Junior secondary school teachers need to be updated about the new teaching lesson approach.
We should try and put our eyes away to make sure that we get verified by examining the teachers before even people to take you. We like government to continue providing the feeding to our pupils.
The representative of the state government at each summit responded to the issues raised and made commitments on behalf of that government to tackle a number of them.
Our government is very politically committed in terms of educational investments.
The issues to be addressed, as agreed upon by the gathering, were then presented.
To provide adequate and qualified teachers that can man our schools.
Based on this agreement, a social contract was then drawn up and endorsed by stakeholders and the government representative.
I will present it to the representative of the governor as a symbolic agreement from their side on how to tackle the challenges of education. We will follow up, engaging with the government on how these challenges should be tackled, and then we will follow through to see to what extent can the government tackle these challenges and to what extent will they require support from other partners.
The RISE Nigeria team returned to Jigawa State afterwards as promised to engage with the State Commissioner for Education, Dr. Lawan Yunusa Danzomo, and all the senior officials of the state's education ministry to measure progress made and discuss further steps.
We have now ignited another debate, the challenge in terms of how can we improve education. So the coming of RISE has reawakened us and our responsibility in terms of what can we do to continue to do the best in terms of our system. So we thank RISE for this, and we appreciate the effort, and we appreciate the strategy of taking to put on ground so that we continue to work together and do the sector forward.
On this collective journey towards ideal education outcomes in the country, these stringent efforts of the RISE Nigeria project are so that we understand the clearest and most sustainable paths towards that destination for us all to get there, and soon.